KT Rolster's Kalista ban coming in, of course, very good AD carry with a lot of objective control with that Rend. Hoping to see Rise banned out here, probably, possibly. Thresh ban, actually.
Yeah, we've been seeing more and more of that against Cougar to shut down a little bit of e-mFire's playmaking. And when we talk about e-mFire's compositions, they've been really relying on poke compositions with champions like Lux, Nidalee, and Corki. That's been a bit of their go-to so far this season because Hippo has only been playing these tanky top laners, so they rely on Crush to have more of a carry presence out of the jungle.
Yeah, Elise coming in as a second ban, even though she was slightly nerfed in this patch, if I remember 6.2. Are we in
Yes.
there right now? Yes. And then,
Movement speed nerfs, yes.
yeah, and Trundle ban coming out, that can be both flex in the top lane and support as we've seen from the last games. And Gangplank, of course, very strong, even though his ult got nerfed in this patch also. In 6.2, we're gonna see Shen, the rework Shen, right? So that
It's
might
available,
also,
yes.
it is available, so we might see that happening here in picks and bans.
Yeah, no Jin this week, but new Shen, he is fair game. Also, the Kindred is still disabled, so we will not be seeing that. That has been one of Score's better champions. Lulu will be the final ban, but this will leave up the Nidalee, it'll leave up the Rise.
And Alistar too.
Alistar should be the first pick here from KT Rolster, and they can go ahead and take away the Corki. I think this is good because when we've seen e-mFire do well, they have been playing with poke comps. So force them to play a carry against Someday and have Someday be basically the better carry player.
Yeah, that's gonna be important. Yeah, with the disengage from Alistar, that would be good for a poke comp just in general. So they're running a double AD carry maybe. Also, maybe with Graves, triple AD carry meta.
Yeah, we could definitely see that come through. Depending on what they want to put Someday on in that top side, they could turn the tables and run a poke composition themselves at this point, especially with the Lux available. Both of these teams do appreciate some good Lux, but Poppy still up. Could just see the Lucian takeaway. Lucian has been Arrow's go-to AD carry, so this is a bit of a denial pick as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing that Graves right now being hovered over.
I think it'll certainly be a Graves with the Elise ban, unless, of course, with the new buffs, you never know these days. Poppy Graves would be the most likely champion picks. This would be Someday's 4th game of the season on Poppy. And no, could see the Nidalee here. This would be a composition we would much more expect from e-mFire, actually.
Yeah, it's straight up poke composition with a lot of disengage from both Poppy and Alistar, so.
Yep, definitely. Very strong so far, and saving their mid lane pick, assuming that it's not that Corki for last, but still having that flexibility.
And Shen, maybe?
I don't know if the players have had enough time, honestly, to practice with that new Shen yet to make it work, even though it does seem like it might be a strong pickup. We may not see teams want to take that risk quite this early on.
Hippo has been playing a lot of Novice top, but has not had a great showing on them. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to go for it again. With Edge picking that teleporter, maybe this is the case. I don't know if it's a good pick at this moment, though.
Yeah, especially blind picking that Rise. It could be the Corki, and it might cause some problems in the laning phase. We could just see the Fiora here up against the Nautilus. And we had questions, is Hippo going to be the type of player to take this top lane carry? The answer is probably not. They're flashing over some options right now.
Zillion, like, in other regions, been being picked relatively on a frequent basis, actually.
Well, we've seen it in 2 games, one in the LMS and then, of course, Energy running it with GBM. Would be fun to see it, but Victor, definitely the more reliable poke and wave clear choice. Fly has been known to play the Cassiopeia, but we'll see what they're actually going to go for. I assume it's going to be a Victor here. They could take Corki Ezreal also and just put that Corki in the mid lane, even though it does give you questionable lane matchup. And it will be the Zillion, actually, in the mid lane. This really worked for Energy in their match against TSM in the NALCS last week. I think it's a definitely a very strong pick. My question is, will KT have the damage to finish things out? But if we think about how Energy won that game, it was with Zilean building more for HP and utility with the Rod of Ages and the Seraph's Embrace into the Banner of Command. And then how Energy engineered their victory was through very aggressive diving. And we have gap closers on every single other member of KT right now, so they will have no problem going absolutely deep underneath the enemy turrets, especially with the Alistar. And we'll see if they can replicate that success that Energy had, because in that game they beat TSM 19-0. No kills for TSM.
Yeah, Zilean also has a great wave clear also in general, so could be also used as a poke composition in the game. So, and like with that ult, it also provides some sort of disengage, like when you're trying to come in for the kill.
What I love about KT's composition is they had a flexibility of drafting into a poke composition here. And then instead, at the last pick, after they see the Braum, it gets flipped on its head into a dive comp where they can follow up on Zilean bomb stuns. Very creative draft from KT. Exciting stuff. Let's get into game one. All right, let's get into it. KT Rolster versus e-mFire, game number one. KT taking a page out of the Energy playbook. I said very creative draft here. And that Braum's still going to be useful under the turrets for disengage, but man, are they going to have a problem stopping these dives, especially considering e-mFire doesn't have a lot of range here, so they'll have to kite very effectively with the Nautilus and the Rise. They have some ability to do that, of course, but they need a lot of scaling here, and they may not have time for it.
Yeah, one upside coming from e-mFire is that the Rise is running in mid lane is against a Zilean who doesn't necessarily have a lot of solo kill potential, so he could farm up very well against that Zilean if he just lane clears and then just get the wave pushed back and keep going on forth like that.
Yeah, they also both will need to go Rod of Ages, so we're going to look at some ramp time here for both of these champions, but it's that threat. For those of you who didn't watch the TSM Energy game, definitely worth your time. It's funny too because GBM's been playing Zilean for a long time now, and he finally pulls it out in the professional scene, and it works just marvelously for him and the rest of his team over in NA.
Yeah, regarded as GBM's pocket pick, if Fly has a great showing here with the Zilean, it could be turned into a legitimate meta.
Oh, I think it absolutely can. I think it is a strong pick under the right circumstances when you have the ability to play around that dive. Issues with Zilean typically are being low on mana early in the game, and of course that trade. And we actually do see Guger here just running in for an early ignite off the lane swap.
Yeah, harassing that jungle so that Nidalee has a little bit of pressure. Guger coming in there again, maybe. Nope, does not see him.
Yeah, just checking on the Wolf camp. So early invade, they see Poppy in the bottom side. They realize they have an opportunity to go and disrupt the jungle after getting level 2 off the Krug camp. And so starting on the weak side and having Someday show in lane opens up an opportunity to slow down Score in his jungle clear and blow his flash early.
This means that the Rek'Sai is going to have a earlier gank potential than this Nidalee, so we're going to see how that turns out.
Yeah. Now you can see already the invade. They're going after the blue buff right away. Someday backed off and threw his ward or his yellow trinket into the brush, so they know that the blue is going to be stolen, but this will be a 3-buff start here for e-mFire, and KT really has no answer. So Crush has been a bright spot definitely on this e-mFire team, is finding some relevance. They're also going to get 3 people down onto the bottom side tower, so they'll have a faster tower kill. So sloppy lane swap here from KT is going to result in some pretty big advantages for e-mFire.
Poppy moving up to top lane right now, but they're going to take this turret first. Missing out a lot of EXP and CS.
The question will be what eMFire does after the earlier turret kill and how fast they want to swap back and who exactly is going to get this XP. But eMFire definitely controlling the pace of this game in the early stages, and we see Score just sort of left to his own devices, picking up the scraps in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, but that Nidalee does have really fast lane with jungle clear in general, so Crush taking his red right now, and tower's gone for both teams on the top side and the bottom side.
Someday gets into the top lane to help out, and just about even up the speed on that turret take. So despite that pretty horrible start, by the time we do get into actual gank territory due to the lane swap, we should have Scores flash back up. Edge still getting harassed underneath the turret.
I mean, that's just going to be the story of this entire laning phase just in general, but it's just how he farms and how he's going to turn that pressure, I mean, the early game pressure, and survive that so he can turn into a monster in the late game.
And we see Guger, the fast transition into the top side, just giving Someday some harassment. They've kept him down when it comes to CS. Nautilus now has to back out, and the bottom side as Hippo goes for the Krug camp, considering the aggression that Arrow and Johnny are putting down. Edge is going to have to recall, but has TP, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue to get back into lane.
Nidalee just still farming down in the bot side jungle.
Yeah, just trying to take the safe approach here while they play around their strong side, and KT happy just to take the passive trades right now, considering that early deficit as they try and work their way back in from the poor lane swap. And eMFire just got to stay even, not trying to punish, not trying to go after the flashless Nidalee at all.
Game going on like this, they're not really capitalizing on the poor lane swap that the KT kind of screwed up, but hoping to see they transition into something better. But
yeah, I agree. And the Rex side too, moving into the top side, just not making any kind of aggressive play. Finally, they're pushing out the turret. So Someday has some issues farming, but on the whole, it's been, I think you're right, just not a very good conversion on the advantages that they had and insufficient aggressive play. So the trade not going to be an advantage of eMFire as that gets KT right back into this one, and because they flipped into the top side, it'll be KT in fact getting the first dragon.
Yeah, so they're actually turning that disadvantage into an advantage at this point if they fail to capitalize on it.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's better in those kind of situations if you bounce the wave and hold back in the 2v1 lane so that you can actually punish Score and try and invade instead of just going into default lane swap mode. There's different ways, and actually eMFire Guger has been on point this game on his roams. He's actually going to try and take this dragon away. It will just reset. Chani here getting low is going to headbutt pull eMFire away, but they're going after this. Arrow now here too, and the Zillion is fading into the lane. You see Fly have the priority, and so this has been bounced around, but no dragon taken in the end.
Yeah, very nice rotations from Guger just in general this entire game. Fast, as we've seen in the faster transition into that top lane earlier.
Yeah, and this is the reason why we see these Thresh bans, is that he is very capable of playing aggressively on Thresh, getting into the enemy jungle and messing you up in the early game. So as eMFire has proceeded this season, more and more people are picking up those Thresh bans against them just as a way to slow down what has been one of their more consistently good players.
Thresh just in general, no matter how many times he's nerfed, just his kit's so great that he's gonna be a contended pick no matter what. So
yeah, basically if they were to nerf him to the point his statistics, he would have to take an absolutely enormous nerf to not be viable at the professional level, considering the utility that he has and what pro players can do with that pick.
A lot of versatility. Hippo taking this gigantic wave. Something still here in the top lane though.
Yeah, interesting. So Hippo will be catching up in CS after this wave. KT in the meantime freezing on the bottom side of the map and trying to farm up this Corki while denying the Lucian, but that means that Poppy is going to take a bit of a hit here when it comes to CS. Still just happy to sit in mid lane and scale, and with this style of diving composition, you really are just trying to buy yourself time until you can hit your power spike once Zillion gets a couple items. And at that point, that's when you could really begin diving in earnest. But here comes Hachani over the wall, actually gets the knockup, and a TP coming in on the side of e-mFire. Hippo is on his way. Hachani now locked up, and we see Someday coming from the backside. First blood actually goes over to Someday. Soul is quite low. They're trying to pursue. Soul with a bomb is going to fall to Fly, and they actually managed to clean that up. Hachani looked like he might have been in some trouble after getting looted there by the Rise after the TP, but that wasn't the case, and they will transition right into the Dragon.
Yeah, great flash pulverize, getting 3 members of that team, just having a better vision in general, allowed them to initiate that fight and come out on top.
Yeah, I totally agree. KT has kept this Dragon warded the entire time. e-mFire's vision had a couple of deep wards, but they couldn't actually see how many people were coming in from the mid lane, and then of course they couldn't track Someday's TP into the river. And again, Someday showing up with the better plays in the early game, and that is netting him a nice 1-0-1 scoreline so far.
Spectre Scott picked up for Someday, getting a little bit of MR, and that Catalyst built on both Zillion and Rise right now. So
yeah, Fly will go ahead and take this opportunity to recall. So not stacking up that tier just yet, looking to finish off his Rod of Ages and then start the tier stacking. Will be a bit delayed, we're assuming he does go for tier, but with Zillion, that is typically what we see. With GBM, he actually did go tier first into Rod of Ages, so I'm curious if Fly is going to make an alteration to this build.
101 on both mid lane and top lane, so that's going to be easier for Score to gank. Any lane can be ganked now at this point.
Crush here is trying to help protect Hippo, as they don't have a lot of wards in the top side, and Corki starting to open up the map a little bit and roam into the enemy top side jungle, protecting Someday, so at least he can pick up the farm, and maybe looking out for an invade at the moment, as Edge continuously zoned out, but he's been able to stay pretty well up in terms of CS, just getting some chip damage on his turret due to the better wave clear of Zillion in the early game.
Great objective control just in general for KT Rolsters at this point, taking that drag and that top side.
Yeah, they're going to grab the Rift Herald and put it onto Score, as we typically see, throwing that onto the jungler for a little bit faster clear speed. Edge going to take a big shot there from the Runic Echoes.
Snipe.
Yeah, definitely. They have vision in that brush, so very safe for Score right now to shoot from over the walls. And now, try and put some pressure on the bottom side. Soul does have his ult, and there comes the culling, trying to play around this Rift Herald buff. They get some damage down on the turret, but not a whole lot. But Fly still doing work and continuously pushing Edge back and autoing the turret, so doing an excellent job against this Rise here early.
Edge, though, is still not down in CS at all, despite the pressure that Score has been putting on them and Fly, so that's relatively a good sign, I guess, at this point. And they're taking that mid turret right now, rotating.
Yes, they are, so continuing to move through, and Score making the most out of this Herald buff, and that will get them yet another turret. So KT up by 1. They still have their mid lane after the lane swap, and they finally start to push forward. And we'll see how much control they can get over the Dragon in this particular situation. So got a couple more minutes before that respawns.
KT relatively aggressive in the early game, as you mentioned, as you wanted them to see. And, so I guess that's a good sign. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it should be, yeah. And I think that by having the mid lane pushed out so early on, they will have a lot more room to work with, because having that mid lane tower out is good in almost every single situation, and when you're playing a dive composition like this, because they can start to get deep wards in the top and bottom side, you can see already in the top side, they'll be able to track the enemy team's rotations with those wards, and therefore it makes it about 1,000,000 times easier to set up these dives that they need to continue to proceed with in order to take a victory here and to play their composition to its win conditions. So they got a lot of speed, got a lot of gap closers, so they should be able just to move faster, especially with Zillion's E, giving that speed boost. And it just comes down to putting down the tower pressure and threatening dives at this stage.
Then in this essence, KT is still somewhat of a poke com also, so they can keep pressuring, keep throwing those spears as we're seeing right now, and with the mid-turn gone, that's going to be relatively easier at this point.
Yes, it will be. So they already got the bottom side warded, so trying to make plays down where they have the wave pressure. They're switching arrow back into the top side, so they're just making it very difficult right now for e-mFire to respond by constantly swapping their pressure and making sure that all of those waves are consistently pressed forward and that e-mFire doesn't have a way to walk through their own jungle safely. See, moving the pink line over into the top side jungle right now as arrow pushes the wave.
You see that entire bottom side jungle has been warded by KT. Great vision control coming out from Hachani and Score.
Yeah, Hachani 2 just at level 6, and that means that the dives might well be starting at this point.
Fly coming in.
Fly definitely coming in, so they have a lot of tools to get people off the turret. Headbutt, of course the Poppy ultimate, and there you go. That's going to work. Some nice stuns underneath the turret as they just chip away.
Ow.
Yeah, take a lot of damage. And the problem for e-mFire is that they have the Braum shield, the Unbreakable, to try and deal with some of this poke damage, but they don't have a whole lot else. Soul does have the culling. He's not going to have to use it on that wave. There's another stun there, and that just changed straight into a Nidalee Spear.
Just watching it makes me hurt inside a little bit.
You wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of that?
No, I do not.
Well, who knew that Zilean would be so good at sieges? We haven't seen a lot of him since his kit was reworked, but having these skill shots where if you double up the bomb, you get that stun, it allows such great follow-up poke from the likes of Nidalee.
Rotating back to Dragon.
Yep, it has spawns. So we do have the Dragon up and available, so it'll be an easy second take here from KT, and Score will hop over the wall to help his team take out number 2 here at 16 minutes. So we know KT started the season loving to play to 5th Dragon, and this game they're well on their way to an early 5 Dragons.
3K gold behind, actually 2K gold behind at 16 minutes, so things are not looking good for e-mFire at this point.
No, this is a pretty substantial early deficit. And remember, KT actually coming into this match with the lower differential at 15 minutes, generally speaking. So this is, I think, a testament to that they've really, in the last week, upped the pace of their games, played a lot more decisively, and been less concerned with wave clear and more about early closures. So a pretty big change in play style from even just a few weeks ago at the start of the season. Emulating the Tigers, for sure. Okay, so Hachani now is moving into the top side of the map and trying to take over this tri-brush, protecting Arrow. They do have a pink ward there, so Arrow actually just very slowly pushing this out.
He knows he doesn't need to risk anything at this point, just let other lanes snowball also, and turn this lead into bigger advantage in the mid to late games.
Yes, and waiting for his allies to get out of base too. We had a lot of recalls there from KT, so he didn't want to put pressure on before everyone could get into the top side and join him. Rift Herald taken for a second time. It actually did do a lot of work onto the turrets when Score had it on their first attempt, so they may just make it the exact same play again while Sunday sits in the bottom side. He's actually developed a pretty substantial CS lead.
30 definitely not small for a top laner.
Extra impressive too that Score has managed to get a CS advantage after the start that KT had in this game. Just a very smooth recovery from a poor situation. Here we go again, more counter jungling from the likes of KT playing around that vision. They will get the Wolf Spirit to track the members of e-mFire.
It's like jungler's worst nightmare. You cannot step into your own jungle because the enemy, you know the enemy keeps missing, and he's most likely in your own jungle. So
yeah, just too much damage there too, especially with the Alistar CCing you. A miss there on the bombs.
And with the CS lead, Someday has just freedom to split push all day if he wants, because if Hippo decides to step up into his lane, he can just solo kill him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's still a major concern. We see Hippo actually going for the Swifties and hasn't even finished his Sunfire cape yet at 18 minutes in this game. He is very much hurting. Someday, on the other hand, has his Sheen moving towards the Iceborne Gauntlet, and there is no one to stop him from pushing on the bottom side of this map.
So much poke, so much damage coming in here from every single member of KT.
And he's just going to get a free turret right now. There is no defense with Hippo in the top side. No, he does back off. No wards means Someday is going to be playing slightly more cautiously. Score actually getting the Herald buff from over the wall onto the minions. The poke continues here as Fly just pushes in the mid lane. KT, you know, you think they'd have to group for this as Fly actually is going to take quite a hit there from Edge during his ultimate.
At this point, they might try to group up, seeing that Edge has now a kill pressure on to that Zillion.
Yeah, this might actually just ruin the entire push from KT here, losing that mid lane pressure. Somebody still working away. Hippo going to anchor toss his way out. That trade actually did cost KT that entire push, playing a delicate game, but Edge manages to play aggressively and break the pressure that they were putting in. So it looked bad there for a moment, but in the end, the e-mFire actually don't end up losing any more of their turrets, still falling behind when it comes to the team gold.
Yeah, almost 4K down now, so pretty substantial at this point. What would you say be the opening that e-mFire needs?
Well, I think that if they can get a preferable dive from KT where they can actually just kite with the Nautilus and the Rise, they might have an opportunity, but KT has opted to simply split them up and use their individual advantages across the map to slowly work away these towers, so they're not really having a whole lot of options, unfortunately.
Yeah, the story of this game has just been KT pushing and then just trying to defend the turret. They're going to go down at some point, though.
Morellonomicon 2 coming through did have a pretty significant cost decrease in the patch 6.2. So that's a bit of a switch up from what we've seen built so far by GBM. And just still going for some cooldown reduction, which we saw him get through the Banner of Command. And now we have a dive coming through. Edge is caught out, and Chani just locks him up. And the follow-up damage there. There's a stun coming in from the Zillion bombs. Crush has to get out. Arrow very low, and there's the TP. Hippo going to come in. He's going to take out Arrow, but Arrow will revive. Gets this Chrono Shift down onto him. Cougar now underneath the turret, trying to block as much as he can. And there's another kill for KT. And this is the threat of the dive with the Zillion. It is absolutely devastating. And the snipe there, as you say, from Italy.
Ooh.
Very nice dive, and that's what they had to be worried about. They couldn't really capitalize on it. The KT push isn't going to stop now. They are going for this inhibitor.
Yeah, watching that play just makes me want to talk about the pick ban phase again. Like, they were opting for the poke composition, but with that Zillion pickup, they suddenly turned it into a dive composition so they could work both ways. High versatility, very smart from KT.
Yeah, very interesting to see the difference in these Zillion builds, though. The Morellonomicon, definitely an earlier pickup, so it doesn't create such a late game power spike. We're going to take a look at this replay one more time, and Edge just gets caught out and immediately destroyed. Meanwhile, Crush gets the bomb, stun, and follow-up, has to back off, but KT just not worried. Chrono Shift down onto Arrow, he's not going to be dying, and Score just zips over from the other lane. And they start to dive and clean up themselves. 2B coming through from Sunday. Nice knock-up at the end. And then the fadeaway spear here. Lots of damage from Score.
The fadeaway.
Yeah, and taking a look at this, I mean, this is, KT's only going to get stronger as their rods continue to stack up on Italy and onto this Zillion, and looks like Fly is actually going for just straight up AP this game, so doing a less utility-oriented build and just looking for the damage, really.
That ult does scale on AP, so...
Yeah, it does, and I think I like this with the Morellonomicon buffs and the the pretty significant decrease in cost that they buffed. I think that this build is probably a little bit better just because you don't get the mana pool, but you get the double the mana regeneration. You still get the CDR. Someday now going to get grabbed here. Hippo coming in. Someday going to knock up 2 people. Score now Cougar form skirting the outside. Hajani's right in the middle of the fight. Fly coming in for the follow-up. There's 1 bomb onto Hajani. There's 2 bombs onto the rest of e-mFire. Crush. Not going to be able to do much with a flank. Score gets the first kill of this fight. Someday fell low, but the poke is still raining in from KT. e-mFire going to have to fall away from this dragon.
That fight started out as a 3v5, but he still managed to turn it around, just showing how much big of an advantage KT has over e-mFire at this point, taking the third drag at this again. So great objective control just in general. I do not see e-mFire coming out on top on this game at this point.
No, neither do I. And you know, Justin, just at the start of this game, we had that lane swap, which meant that 2 towers went down. But ever since the lane swap point, there hasn't been a tower, a dragon, a baron, a Rift Herald, a kill for e-mFire. So if there hadn't been a lane swap here, we may have been looking at a perfect game from KT.
And I don't think Edge had a blue buff ever since the second blue buffs either, because Score has been just inside his jungle this entire time throughout this game.
Well, there's a time for e-mFire to try and make a comeback even from this massive deficit. It'd be now Seraphs is completed onto Rise, so he has actually managed to stack up enough items to make himself a powerhouse, and of course, just being on Rise will make you a threat in the late game no matter what. So KT needs to start thinking about locking down this Baron.
Hippo on Nautilus has not been having a great showing. I don't know why it was picked, but he's not really showing the reasons why it was picked at this point. 50 CS down against Someday.
Well, Justin, he hasn't shown us why he's been picking it this season. So your guess is as good as mine. This is his 4th game of top Nautilus. He just seems to be very limited when it comes to champion pool, and the team seems that they don't want to put him on anything that isn't a tank. So they have quite a small portfolio of strategies available to them in this particular situation, and KT still controlling the vision, denying wards around the Baron pit right now, and it's this pressure that really has to come through. Fly actually hasn't gone back to shop in a really long time.
Never needed to, I guess.
Doesn't care about death cap, I suppose. Okay, so Somebody's still working on the split push now, moving into most likely a Sterix Gauge. See what they want to do in terms of this bait. Somebody's TP is back up, Flies is down, but he's clearing out the mid lane. e-mFire, as long as they see Fly though, shouldn't be so worried. KT actually does not have a very good composition for taking Baron, not a lot of tankiness there. So it'd be hard for them to 3-man it without getting massively chunked out.
Yeah, at this point, all e-mFire can do is maybe try to catch one of them out in the jungle, but with the vision control going in KT's way, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Somebody pushing super aggressively, but they cannot kill Someday at this point with 2 core items up.
Yeah, Someday can't kill Nautilus either though, so there's that aspect to it. Nautilus just vastly too tanky at the moment. KT's going to be stalling out a little bit here because they can't adequately threaten the Baron with 3 people, and they can't really split push either, so they actually change up their game plan, stop baiting the Baron, and move 5 people all the way down to the bottom side. Back to tier 2 sieging. As KT realizes they're not going to have much success with their current strategy. Hippo's going to get knocked into the wall. Nice bit of damage there, taken down 50% by Someday and Arrow. Rom Shield could have blocked some more of that poke, but the tower's already down below 50%.
Yeah, Rise was a little bit late coming down, but with Hippo initiating, I don't know if he was initiating, managed to push them off just for a little bit, but it's going to go down sometime.
He still has this ultimate up, so if they want to engage, they can have it. But e-mFire taking the safe approach. The next wave, KT knocks down another turret, moves them to 6 in this game. They do have an open inhibitor in the mid lane. That's going to be their next target.
Slowly pushing this game towards victory.
That's how it's going to be. I do like that they changed away from the Baron bait, though. They couldn't actually make it believable with just Corki and Nidalee and Alistair. You're just not going to take that fast whatsoever. So here we go again. Now we see the disengage. Crush going to knock up Arrow, but Arrow has no problem getting out of that. Hippo actually going to TP in from the backside, knock up Arrow, but Someday gets low in the mid lane, does have to flash backwards. Hippo now caught and collapsed on in the back line.
Zillion double kill.
Gets a double kill. Achani still here, skirting the outside, trying to get some hits onto this inhibitor, as we see a 3-for-0 trade. Supply, and now the engage. Achani going to pop his ultimate. Soul exhausted. Soul pushed into the turret, and that's going to be a finisher from Score in the Cougar form. Achani backs off with 0 HP effectively.
This is game?
Yeah, that's going to be the win here for KT. After that lane swap, this was a perfect game from KT Rolster. Beyond those 2 early turrets, they make it 11-0 in kills. No dragons given, no heralds given, no nothing given. And that'll be a 29-minute win for KT.
Yeah, so picking Zillion guarantees maybe the 0 death? I don't know, but no kills coming out on either of those games.
That's true. Energy, KT, both play Zillion. The opponents in both games get 0 kills. So definitely a strong pick if you have a good mid-Zillion player and a mind and a teamwork to follow up on those dives using the Chrono Shift. Good start here for KT. Need to be a little bit more careful in those lane swaps. But other than that, about as clean as you get.
Yeah, no mistakes after that point. And KT, who's relatively has been slower in the start of the game, actually had a lot of early game pressure on all sides of the map.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Even though they did fall behind in that lane swap, they were the ones who maintained the pressure through the early and mid game, and there really wasn't substantial wave clear there from e-mFire. Besides the Lucian, they couldn't deal with the multi-pronged attack across the lanes that KT delivered, and that just led to a turret snowball and a huge win for KT. So they go up 1-0. We are going to have game 2 of this series coming right up, and we'll see if e-mFire can fight back. I think that Trundle ban definitely helped, took away some of e-mFire's punch. All right, guys, game 2 coming up in just a few minutes. See you then.